So we've got Lauren Swanner, big announcement, Compass.
Compass, yes. I have just joined Compass. I joined the Bodman Group, Denise Bodman, and her and I were introduced a few years back, and the timing just fit. So I'm super excited to work with Compass. They have a ton of tools that I can offer to my buyers, to my tenants, to my landlords. It's going to be a great transition.
Well, timing is everything.
It is.
So tell us, what were you doing before this?
So my background is in general sales, and I moved from the coast of Texas in 2017 to Austin.
What city was it again?
I'm from Victoria, Texas.
Yeah, rep it.
Pretty small.
I know so many people from there for some reason.
We all tried to come to Austin.
Yeah.
Next best place. No, Austin is the crossroads of Texas. Great place to be. You can get to most major cities in Texas in about 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my background. I was Rookie of the Year, and I was introduced to a lady by the name of Kathy down with in Rockport, actually.
Okay.
And her daughter was a colleague of mine at my previous brokerage. And anyway, I brought her in on a deal in Rockport. She introduced me to my previous broker. I got here as quick as I could, and within 2 years was a top producer with my previous brokerage, which was Highlands Realty. So for the past 7 years, my background has mostly been in new development, new construction. I've done anywhere from working with architects to working with acquisitions, trying to determine what the buyer is moving forward. And then on the side, I've always done general sales. So now with that background and then my experience in general sales, I'm just kind of bringing everything forward and hoping to broaden my range of buyers, sellers, and moving forward with Compass.
I love that. I mean, it's interesting to me because I'm seeing a few real estate agents that are transitioning into like new build and stuff like that in this time because, it's been a little slow over the last few years. And so seeing someone that's kind of doing the opposite's exciting because, what gave you the confidence to make that switch? You're kind of leaving something that's a little, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe a little more stable, but.
Right. So there can be two sides to it, right?
Okay.
So new construction, I always say, is just a total different animal than general sales. In the state of Texas, you don't technically need to be licensed to sell new construction. At my previous brokerage, I was privileged enough to be able to do general sales as well as new construction. A lot of brokerages will see that as a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Because I wasn't taking business from those developer leads, I was allowed to do both, but it kind of can be double-sided because when you are working for the seller, a lot of times when buyers come in, they're often represented. So I've made great relationships with agents over the years here in Austin, and I've made several client relationships, and I'm just kind of hoping to mesh both worlds where I can represent buyers as well as sellers. So it's a bit, sorry.
You're good.
Trying to think of how to word that.
So was it more financially driven or was it more like trying to, do something that you had a passion for? Like what was the main motivator?
Right. So the main reason for the switch was passion. My background has always been in general sales. Working with new construction, I love that. I've loved building from the ground up. I just want to be able to kind of broaden what I can do for my clients.
Okay. I think that's exciting. So who is the, I understand there's probably a wide array of individuals that you work with, but who seems to be the main client that you're dealing with usually?
So oftentimes I'm dealing with a millennial buyer.
Okay.
They are our number one buyer in the market right now. Very influence driven, very social media driven. And so they're very educated buyers. And oftentimes they will know your product better than you know it.
Okay.
Sorry, you're stumping me.
No, that's okay. So that is who you're basically working with mainly. Do you like that buyer? Do you find it challenging? I mean,
actually, I kind of find that that's a difficult question to answer.
Okay.
A lot of my I am a millennial, right? So a
Right.
lot of my friends are millennials. A lot of my business is referrals, and so they are referred by friends. So that's mostly my buyer, but it also depends on what I'm offering, right?
Okay.
So I've started marketing over at Parkside and Mueller. That buyer can be anywhere from a younger professional to an empty nester.
Sure.
When I'm selling downtown, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lifestyle? So I think with my background in new construction and working through acquisitions and determining the buyer for what type of project there's been, I think that really has helped me kind of narrow down for the buyer what they're looking for based on what their lifestyle is.
I got you. And to your point, I mean, with you being a millennial as well, do you find that it's easier to connect with people your age versus maybe an older generation or even like the younger generation, or do you just get along with everybody?
I'm pretty well meshed. I can get along with every crowd. I was kind of like that in high school as well.
Okay.
I definitely I have an older crowd when I'm working in certain areas. I'll have anywhere from an empty nester to maybe somebody that this is their secondary home. Maybe it's their fifth home. They travel quite a bit. They're usually retired. It, again, just depends on that product offering.
I got you. So you just started with Compass, but how long have you been in real estate in general?
So this upcoming year will be 10 years.
Wow. 10 years.
Yeah, so
Congratulations.
thanks.
So
Been
what
a
do you
fun
like
10
about it the
years.
most?
I love people.
Okay.
It really is my passion, people. I am curious about relationships and, just how people found each other and what their passion is and how they came to want to purchase one of life's biggest investments together, where they're at in life, whether they're growing a family. I love being invited back to barbecues. I love getting the Christmas cards, seeing the family and how they've grown up in the houses. It really is my passion. People is my passion.
I love that. So you mentioned that the majority of your business is referrals. Is that referrals from other people that you've done business with, or, can you kind of unpack that a little bit?
Sure. So, yes, definitely past business. I'll always ask for the referral. Do you know a friend or family member? That's always the highest compliment. I do have a lot of friends. I'm pretty social, and there's always somebody in the group. Hey, somebody's looking to buy a house. Just like the tipping point, you can have that one friend, and I do have such a great friend who brought me. Actually, we reconnected here after living together in San Antonio 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And we reconnected after not speaking for several years, but being connected on social. And she since has sent me 4 clients that all of them have bought. And I just actually closed on her own property about a month ago. So it's a great feeling. And it's great when you can do great business for one person and they go back and say, hey, Lauren really helped us during this time. Maybe she can help you. And it just tends to work out.
Well, I liked that you mentioned that you have these conversations with friends when you're kind of out, the barbecues. I find that there's people that are fearful of, having those conversations in like more of a personal setting where it's like not a work setting. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, people are pretty open these days.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Go on.
Ahead. People are pretty open these days. I mean, if we were in another country and you asked what somebody did for their profession, it would be considered rude, right? But here in America, we're pretty open and people are curious. And the first question that I always get as an agent walking into a room is, what's the market like?
Sure.
And people want to know, what is their house worth? Is this a crazy time? Is this 2020 where I could get $100,000? Should I list my house and go live in an apartment and then buy in 2 years? So I think it's always a conversation piece. I think when you get to the aspects of how much someone can qualify more, then that gets a little more personal.
Sure. Well, and the reason I mention it is because we have agents on all the time, and sometimes they're newer. You've been doing this for a while, so you don't fall in that category. But newer agents, I always ask, what are ways that you're generating business? And a lot of times you get that pushback where it's like, I don't want to be and I find from my experience, just from what I do as a lender and watching what other agents do, is sometimes the best business happens when you're dealing with somebody who you do meet in more of an organic setting. That way the guard is down a little bit. you're obviously not super pushy about what, you're not like, hey, buy a house today, but you can be a lot more tactful in having those conversations. But I do like what you made mention of, like, what's the real estate market like, which is a blessing and a curse when someone asks that. I would love to know, what is your general response when someone at a party says, what's the real estate market like?
It's always a great time to invest in real estate.
There you go.
The best time to buy a house is 10 years ago. The next best time is today.
I had that on my signature line for a while in my email.
Yeah, it's so true.
I learned it because the original, do you know the original saying of that?
Tell me.
It's actually the best time to plant a tree.
Yes.
10 years ago.
Yes.
But it's all kind of the same when you think about it.
Ziegler, right?
Something. I think you're right. It's
been a while since I've read the original.
So doing things organically by having those conversations. And again, I really want to hone in on this a little more, because this podcast, in addition to trying to create content for agents and, you and I just connecting and having a conversation, is also designed for other agents to maybe kind of watch stuff like this and get tips and tricks and so on and so forth. And I am a little shocked at the amount of times that I do connect with agents, and they'll make comments like, I love helping people and this and that. But then when you ask them about like their sphere of influence or their friends, like, what are you going to do this weekend? And they're like, oh, I don't do much. I don't do much.
I do a lot.
Right. Well, and so here's what I'm getting at is, like, I think about the agent that says to me, and it's typically newer agents, and let's face it, like, if this is your mindset, it might not work out for you as a real estate agent. But they're kind of like, if you give me a buyer and, I'll identify what they're looking for, I'll do a great needs assessment, we'll make sure that their interests and whatnot are taken care of. And truthfully, the buyer with that real estate agent, when the transaction is done, is usually like over the moon about that real estate agent. They're like, he or she did a phenomenal job. The thing that I've identified about most salespeople, and especially real estate agents, is they have a really tough time generating that buyer. And so to hear that your way of doing that is by going out, getting out, having conversations, in one way or another, people are going to know what it is that you do, I think is awesome. And the reason I love it is because, number one, I know it works, and number two, it's kind of similar to what I do. Are there any other ways outside of getting out, going to the parties, what other event? Well, let's start here. Are there any other events outside of just like parties and whatnot that you find clients at? Is there anything else that you do? Is it charities or anything like that?
I am a member of the Central Food Bank of Texas, so I do volunteer there.
Okay.
I used to be a member of one of the local churches here, kind of since not as big into that right now.
Sure.
But yeah, so really, when I think about ways that I've gotten clients, I've driven past somebody picking up a flyer out of a yard and just said, hey, you want me to unlock that house for you?
Yeah.
And they ended up buying where the average house in a previous market sold for around $250,000. They bought about a $550,000 property. So I think the opportunity is always there. There's relationships all around, and it's definitely a relationship building business. So my sphere can be anyone from my hairstylist. The first person I ever sold a house to was my nail tech. And super sweet girl. They she was very big on family and bought a house for her parents. And so, yeah, I think opportunity is always there if you're open to it.
Where does that come from for you? In other words, we have these conversations, or better yet, I'll talk with other salespeople and we'll kind of have this exact conversation, and I watch people's eyes light up and they're like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. I never thought about having a conversation with my nail lady while I'm having my nails done. Like, is that something that you feel like you're just doing organically, or do you feel like it's something that you're kind of more mindful of, that it's top of mind, to maybe figure out a way to have a conversation about what it is that you do?
I think for myself, I'm very much a chameleon.
Okay.
So I get along with anyone, most anyone,
Sure.
most times, right? And I think people are curious. I think when I I love to go the extra mile sometimes and just being friendly. When you walk in to get coffee, do you want someone who doesn't speak to you at all, right?
Right.
Or maybe they're friendly. Maybe you don't want to be talked to, but they're at least smiling. They're tending to your empty coffee, right? You're getting good service. You're appreciative of that service. They're appreciative of you having gratitude. And it kind of just goes from there. When
Yeah.
you're sincere and you really, the relationships are so important in this business, but I do care about people. I do care for people. And I think that it shows when I'm talking with people. People will open up and tell me quite a bit. I think for me, it comes pretty naturally. I've always had that meshed within me.
So there it is. I mean, again, talking to so many agents like I do, and especially on this podcast, there is something that I feel like we are right on the cusp of where it's like, that's the answer. And I just can't figure out what it is, because I have been trying to, a lot of what I do as a lender is I connect with agents, and outside of the lending side of things, I try to be, for lack of a better term, almost like a resource in regards to sales training and ways that we can go after business, right? And so what it is that you're doing right now, which you've kind of made mention is organic, is something that maybe can't be trained. But I'm trying to figure out a way to do it. And I think that we're almost onto something to where, like, I want to clip it and say, like, this is what it is. I love the coffee analogy, where I definitely have done this myself, where I go into places, even if it's at a bar or a restaurant or something along those lines, and try to just be a little more, for lack of a better term, extroverted when I'm having a conversation with whoever I'm dealing with. It opens things up. It opens up deeper conversation. It opens up more opportunity to, have those chats, because I know that you know this, but I'll say it, like, I came from Cleveland, Ohio, and moved down here and didn't know anyone, literally. And so in 5 years, it has gotten to the point, I was at a wedding last weekend chatting with someone and was able to find a mutual friend that we had, and they're not even in my space in regards to the business. And that's just how much I am constantly trying to be in front of as many people as I possibly can, having basic conversations, not with the sole intention, but definitely with the underlying intention of chatting about what it is that I do.
Right. And when they feel comfortable with you, then they want to work with you.
Right.
And we want to help them. We have the knowledge. Let us take care of you. There's no better person.
Well, and so the one piece that I really harp on, and I think, again, here I'm chatting with you, and I feel like I'm telling you things that you already know, but I'm trying to drag it out of you to articulate it for maybe the agent who's just starting, right? The one thing I think most people forget about is two things. Number one, you can get into any sales business and you can get leads, right? You can get deals that are referred to you by somebody that, they know, or you can have people that you work with directly who have, organically connected with you. And the one thing that I think a lot about is not about how many transactions I close, because I'm at this point in my career where not only do I want to do, a good amount of transactions, but I want my transactions to be, for lack of a better term, easy. And I don't mean like easy as far as like not a lot of work. I mean easy as in like I'm not constantly having to defend what it is that I do. I'm not constantly having to defend my intentions for my client, right?
Right.
And when you meet people in the way that we're talking about, I feel as though it makes for a smoother transaction for everybody, not just us as salespeople, but also as the clients. And I'd rather have, 10 of those a year than 50 just pulling teeth
Exactly.
transactions.
Exactly. And a quick note that I recall there is just recently I had a previous lender who helped a buyer on a property. And this buyer was extremely difficult. Never wanted to meet the lender in person, just kind of very sharp, shoots off the hip
Right.
type buyer. Well, obviously the loan originator did his job and the loan was sold after closing, and that buyer went back to the originator and was very upset that he wasn't aware that even though it was disclosed that could
Sure.
happen and
Sure.
so on. And my friend who was the lender said, had you come up and had we met in person, I don't think you would have talked to me like this. Like I've always been in your corner.
Yeah.
I'm here in your corner. And the person, of course, had to go back and apologize. But again, when you're face to face with somebody, it's like when you're mad at AT&T. You want to be mad at somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Something happened. But we're all just people, and we're all just working. And a lot of us are in the business of people. We are service industry people.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to do the best for those people. So
100%.
I think it's always about the relationship. It's like they say, a lot of it is who you know. I mean, there's so many agents. There's 19,000 agents just here in Austin, Texas. Why does somebody want to use Lauren Swanner?
Yeah.
It's because the reputation that I've built.
Yeah. I think reputation is a lot of it. And I think, again, we're going back to what we initially were talking about, which is they like you. Right. And that's the second thing that I wanted to cover was, the transaction's easier when you know each other. And then number two, there's nothing more fun than, purchasing a home and conducting business with people that you like. Right. Because that makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
When you don't have to go, I don't want to call him or her and, deal with the situation. I mean, you want to work with someone that you like. And I think that's my biggest piece of advice to newer agents that I've been chatting with lately. And again, lucky you that it comes organically, because I think you'd be really surprised at how many people have a very difficult time figuring out ways to have those conversations. And I think it's a combination of a few things. Part of it's because they're new and there's some imposter syndrome that's associated with it, which is silly because all you're really trying to do is just meet somebody and have fun.
Right.
And then I'm actually surprised. I'm like a serial extrovert, so, there's that. But I'm always surprised at how people don't necessarily they say they like people, but then they don't really want to meet people. Do you ever do you see any of that? I mean, I know you're not like that, but people that that claim
that are in the industry.
But now maybe in the industry or maybe not, just people in general that, make comments like, oh yeah, I love people. But then they're never out. They don't do much,
They're more introverted, actually.
Right. But they claim that they just love people.
Yeah, I think some people have a limit on how many people they want to be around.
I see. So they love a few people.
A few people.
Is there anything else that you're doing outside of kind of the organic conversations and whatnot to generate new business? Or is that it?
So kind of going back into why I made the transition and what we're building forward. So my background is in new development. Denise's background has been development for the past 20 years as well.
Okay.
She actually sold the first high-rise building here in Austin, Texas. So she does work with developers, so I'm still going to be working alongside her team, selling new construction, selling different condo regimes, buildings here. And going back to that sphere, I mean, it's, calling past clients, right? And people just reaching out. I think right now I really don't do any lead outreach, and this next year I'll have to report back and tell you exactly, where did buyers come from. I have not been really doing any lead generation for the past few years. Besides when I worked new development, they have leads, which of course, like I said, different animal than general sales. But yeah, I mean, gosh, it really, I always say one day I want to write a book, but I got a call today for a referral, and the referral today was actually from a crazy deal back in Victoria, Texas that I did 7 years ago. It was on a 17-acre gun range.
Okay.
Really interesting property.
Sounds like it.
Snake fell on my head when I opened the door.
Oh,
it
wow.
was out in the middle of nowhere. And then I had the buyer, and this was, quick cash close. We're in the option, and he got worried about lead contamination or, whatever, from all the gun range. So he decided to back out. But the listing agent was out of Houston, and I've kept a good relationship with her for all these years. She sent me several buyers. Last year, I closed $2 million in sales.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Referral from Houston. And then today, I just got a call again. I got another referral. So just cultivating those past relationships, staying in touch with everybody. Social media is really a big way. I just posted my announcement to Compass, and I've had 4 or 5 people reach out and say, hey, what are you doing now? So I think that's beneficial as well to my business, where before, when I did new construction as well as general sales, people thought I only did new construction.
I see.
So going back to what I'm doing now is I'll still be doing new construction, still be doing general sales, just on a much broader range and with a brokerage that has some awesome tools that I can't wait to share with clients.
Well, we'll be getting your announcement up on my page as well. It'll go out in front of a bunch of agents who I'm sure know you. So
Yay.
there'll
Probably
be-
done a bunch of deals with them over the years.
Right,
Working
right.
on the other side.
What about like referral partners outside of real estate? In other words, like, do you have any referral partners from any other type of business that you feel are, out there, whether it be financial advisors? I've actually heard a lot of women say that they get a lot of referrals from like hairstylists. Is there anything like that you're doing?
I
You can say no.
I have spoken with wealth advisors, but no. No, I mean, I'm really not doing anything extra.
Okay.
Different lenders that I've worked with through the years. I'll get a lead here and there
Yeah.
from them.
It's a tough one. That's awesome.
Yeah. It can be. You got to keep my lips sealed on that.
Every time as a lender, it's very difficult for us to get leads over to real estate agents because most of the clients, already have an agent that they're committed to.
Exactly.
And
it's
then-
that relationship. So when you have that relationship with that person and that person says,
Right.
hey, I have a friend, you want to talk to this person.
Yes. And that's what we've been able to do is kind of, that's the only time it works is when maybe the agent that I've worked with in the past is, shocker, no longer in the business.
Right.
They're out there. But yeah, kudos to any lenders that are giving leads out to real estate agents. It's a tough task just
It is.
because of, like you said, the relationships that these buyers have with their agents. And, you don't want to totally like push an agent out, even if you don't know who it is.
No, it was on a friend level.
Yeah.
If there was an agent involved, definitely it wouldn't have happened.
Right on. Anything else that, I'm keeping on the new business type of thing, because once again, I find a lot of agents and people will watch this just with an interest of what is it that Lauren Swanner is doing to be so successful. Is there anything else you feel like that has been working for you that if I were a new agent in the business that you'd say, hey, what you should really be doing is?
That's tough.
We kind of covered all the bases.
I think so. I
Okay.
mean, looking back, if I had advice for a new agent,
Mm-hmm.
I tell them follow the other agents.
Right.
That's how you
That's who
learn.
you are.
You
are
learn
the
by
other
doing.
agent.
Yeah, come shadow me.
Yeah.
You don't learn until you do it. That's so true in this business. And what you really go through, you would never expect. But what do
Right.
they say? If you don't have a couple lawsuits a year, you're not really selling real estate, right?
Is that how it is? One of the agents out of the office here was just telling me, he's like, oh, I've got an issue right now that, I won't go into details, but kind of to your point, he's like, I hate when this stuff happens post-close and you've got to like iron stuff out with deposits and everything like that. And so, yeah, to your point, you can't please everybody, right? And people are difficult to deal with. So it wasn't anything he did specifically, but, the buyers and sellers post-close had some stuff going on they can't agree on.
Yeah. It's unfortunate when somebody's ego gets offended because I feel like that is the biggest thing that can break a deal. And I will offer a lot of times, I'm trying to Band-Aid everything, but it's definitely when you're working, say I have the listing and my seller is a certain type of way. I've got to carefully bring the buyer information back. And I think if you don't have a trusted advisor who can carry that information confidentially and then give good advice moving forward, then the deal can crumble.
Right.
And that's why you want somebody who has the experience.
That's a great point that you just brought up, though, that I wanted to ask you. Do you have a preference as far as, what you would prefer if you could wave a magic wand as far as working with buyers or sellers, or does it make no difference to you?
It makes no difference to me, really. I do love working with buyers
Okay.
because I love to see the different properties. I love to see
Yeah.
how the buyers feel in all the properties. I love when they bring their family. It's exciting to see, okay, what room is going to be mine, or, all the kids running
Right.
around. So that's super exciting. But on the list side as well, when it's a challenge, I've often been brought in previously on when projects were kind of at a standstill and kind of harder to sell. They would bring me in to say, okay, clean up. And I always clean up well, and
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
money to be
Yeah.
on the table, but you have to re-strategize. And to the point, I mean, just
Mainly buyers, if you could. More of the helping.
mainly investors, I feel.
Investors?
I think
All
investors
right.
are
Tell
definitely
me
my
why.
favorite because there's a lot less emotion involved.
Okay.
A lot less emotion. Investors, and most of the time when you show them the stats and then you're explaining why you brought, I mean, it's just kind of a win-win. It's an easy win. I'll say that.
I gotcha. So one of the things you've been mentioning when we bring up Compass is kind of all of the new tools and exciting things that you're looking forward to. Is there anything specific that you want to touch on just to let all of your fans know about that's coming now that you're working with Compass?
What's one of my, well, we took our new team photo today, so team photos will be coming out.
All right.
We will be in the Tribeza magazine, so look for us there.
How many people are on the team?
So we have 8.
Okay.
So small team. I got to give a shout out to Alyssa. She has literally been saving my life with coming from someone who's had an assistant for 7 years. I am terrible with even sending a calendar invite. So
see.
she has really helped me.
And Alyssa is?
Alyssa Runnels is with Compass, and she's
I see.
our ops girl.
Shout out to Alyssa.
Operations, yes, definitely.
She keeps all you girls in line.
She does. She's been awesome. So yeah, we have a few things that are in the works. We're definitely going to be doing a lot more mixers, client appreciations, and just trying to show people that, rates are going down, and this is a new market, and this is a new time. Election's over, regardless of who you voted for. We don't need to worry about
Right.
this, that, and the other anymore. I mean, it's a time to buy, really, and there's so much inventory. And buyers can really get a great deal. I mean, we're coming from a market where in 2020 there were no houses under 400,000 in Austin. I mean, you had to go out to Jarrell, not even Liberty Hill. So the fact that we have new construction and that there's so many great incentives and that you can do rate buy downs, lenders can offer great tools. So we want our buyers to come.
Well, if you're doing any appreciations or anything, let me know. I love sponsoring those when I can.
Definitely will. Definitely will.
Those are honestly one of my favorites. Are the client appreciation events, and then up in Ohio, I used to do more of these. I have only done a few down in Texas, and I'm shocked at how many agents and buyers haven't taken me up on this. But I go to every single closing that I can as long as I'm in town. And at the closing, we do closing gifts, and I answer all the questions. And then at the very end, I say, if you ever have a housewarming party, I want to be there, and I'll cater it. And people are like, oh, my God, that's amazing. You'll do that? And I'm like, yep, no matter how many people you have, let me know,
idea.
and I'll cater it. And I have only been taken up on it like twice.
Really?
And, I mean, we do about 100 transactions a year, just me individually. And I don't know why. No one down here wants to take me. I don't know if they forget about me or what. I follow up. But those are great. We're talking about new business. Those are great because I'll always tell the agent that we are catering it together, and meeting the friends and family and everything along those lines while having a conversation about buying, because the people that we're here to celebrate just purchased a home.
Right.
That's literally the thesis of the entire party. And it goes really, really well because people they want to talk about real estate. They have questions. And I've identified that what people do, and this is, and I've said this probably like 10 times on the podcast, but I'll say it again. It shocks me that people use their kind of like their sphere of influence as a gauge as to whether or not they should buy a home. I can't tell you how many times where I'll have a conversation with the client. I'll say, hey, what has made you decide to purchase a property? And if they don't come right out and say something like, well, our family's growing or we have to move because of a job, they'll usually say, oh, we're just sick of renting. It's just been kind of time. I'll ask, has anyone that you know purchased a home in the last 6 months? And 9 out of 10 times they'll be like, yeah, actually my brother did.
Makes sense.
And what I've learned is like everybody, once somebody buys a home in like a group,
it's the tipping point.
Yeah, it's like everyone else looks at it, and I swear it's because, and this is just my sick, the sick mindset I guess I have. It's like people will look and be like, well, if Bob can buy a house, I could totally buy a house.
I'm gonna buy a bigger one,
right? Or maybe, yeah, I'm gonna buy a bigger one. I feel like it's no. That means I could definitely do it. And there's like this competitiveness amongst like groups of people, and
for sure,
you got to keep up with Joneses, and that sells more homes than interest rates, than property values, than whatever kind of value proposition that you can give about equity or generational wealth. No. That doesn't sell anywhere near as hard as like, well, my brother-in-law just purchased a house like 6 months ago. Isn't that wild? So those events, when we do the housewarming parties, do really, really well. So agents, I would even say, I don't even have to be the lender. I would be interested in catering those parties. And again, it's getting out in front of people.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is so much more important. And I'm qualified to speak on that because I would not be where I'm at right now. I just hit like my 5-year mark, December 10th.
Yay.
I've been here for 5 years.
You made it.
Yeah. And that, if someone were to ask me, outside of, I was really good with connecting with like the financial advisor, CPA, doing all of that, but like really just getting out and having conversations. And just, there have been times like on a Saturday where I don't have anything to do. And I'm like, what am I going to do tonight? And we will find something to do because we know that we have to get out and just have conversations. Mm-hmm. And that has resulted in business.
For sure.
And I feel like people don't do enough of that.
It's the number one thing,
You got to be there.
You do.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly. I have my good friend Travis moved here the same time I did. And his business is really taking off as well. He's also an agent, but he also is a general contractor.
I see.
And one thing he does really great is he puts together these mixers. And I've gone to a couple of them, and I see people come up and talk to him. Well, I don't know anybody here, and he's like, "Hey, you're doing paint. You're doing the. I mean, this is what nobody knows anybody. This is what we're here for.
Right?
We're here to mesh. We're here to have those conversations. And then when you go back and you're in the option period and something crazy happens and you need a window guy and need a quote, you're like, oh yeah, let me call this person.
Yeah, I know a guy that every Friday he does a barbecue and mingle where he makes barbecue and invites real estate agents and all of the tradespeople and everything like that to his office. I've had a delicious
cheeseburger.
Right. That guy exists. So just like Travis, I totally know where Travis is coming from. Yeah. And it makes a difference. And, it was interesting too when you were kind of chatting a little bit about connecting with other agents. That is one thing that I am really, really big on. And I feel like COVID kind of got everybody away from it, but I think it's so important that other agents are in connection with other agents, not only for strategy purposes, but to your point, like transactions are always easier when everybody kind of knows one another. Mm-hmm. As not just maybe the buyer to the buyer's agent, but like, I mean, how many transactions have you had where you knew the listing agent, you've known them outside of this particular transaction, and you guys get along? Like that's always a way better experience for everybody.
Definitely.
Than, what I call the real estate agent that thinks they're an attorney and, I'm representing my client. Like, okay, chill. Right. Like let's try to like work through this. So I'm happy to hear you say that. 'Cause yeah, I mean, it matters. We connected through Ina, right? And that's just an example. Like you two have never really done a transaction, but you know each other, you're friends now. And like, I'm super confident that there's going to be at some point in time that you two are going to work together, and it's going to be a way easier transaction because of it.
Definitely. I've been waiting for her to bring me a buyer a long
Yeah,
time.
it's coming.
But we're definitely going to have some deals done together. And she's perfect. She's just like a chameleon as well.
She is.
We bonded in that sense. And I moved here not knowing anyone, but of course that was another time. Y'all moved here during 2020. And anyway, it's great to have been connected with y'all. And again, there's 19,000 agents, but how many of us are actually doing business?
Probably like 10%.
I've done about 11 million in sales this year, and
fantastic.
the agents that I work with, we run in a small circle. So it's just nice to be nice.
Of course, I totally agree. What else do we need to know about Lauren Swanner in regards to like the first episode, not the last, of your podcast here, so that we can get everything out? Because next podcast, I want to talk more about industry predictions and things that tips, tricks that you would tell buyers and sellers. But what do we need to know about you?
About me,
Or better yet, the buyer or client that you're looking for.
the buyer client, I honestly would love to work with anybody. I definitely moving into 2025, I would love to work with more buyers. Of course, I've worked with buyers working on the sell side as well, but it's a little bit different when you're representing both parties.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the exclusivity of it. And moving into 2025, what to know about me? I mean, I'm available. I'm here.
Okay.
I am Austin, Texas. I am new construction. It's what I've been doing. It's been my passion. I've been a top producer in 2 different markets. And moving into this next year, I intend to be one of the top producers with Compass as well.
Is that the 2025 goal? Because today's the 20th of December here, so we're 11 days away from the end of the year.
It definitely is. I'd like to see my name nominated for the Platinum 50 next year.
I love it. Any other 2025 real estate goals for you?
Just helping as many people as I possibly can, and staying focused. There's a lot of moving parts in one transaction. So hopefully we don't have a lot of hiccups through the transactions this
Right.
year. We all had to learn to rework with NAR, et cetera. I don't think that's really changed our industry, and I think it's actually added value.
I would agree.
Because the people that you want to work with, why would you not want to pay for what you're getting? I mean, it's like when you go buy a pair of shoes. Do you go and buy the cheapest pair that are going to get you through the next couple weeks? Or do you think, okay, well, I run about 3 miles a day. Do I research what are the best shoes? What shoes? I mean, that's the difference in what you're getting.
I totally agree. And I think for the agents, you don't want to work. I don't think anybody wants to work with the buyer or seller who, is looking at the agent as something disposable.
Right.
Right? Because it's going to be a bad experience for everybody, and then that's the worst. I mean, I there's nothing worse than that client that you're just basically crawling through the transaction, just waiting for it to be over. I mean, that's exhausting. Those are the deals that I do my very best to stay away from.
Yes. Yeah, those deals, I find that those deals mostly happen when builders skew the close timelines and
Okay.
things like that. And then things get messy because you've got moving dates, you've got to reschedule movers, you've got leases being up, there's fees that are involved. So people
Right.
get very angry. But again, I think if you're working for reputable builders and developers that can close on time, then there's not really the angst with the buyer, and then they're happy, and then they're a repeat buyer, and then they want to come back. I mean, I'm about to list a house over in Cooper Square that I've done 4 transactions with these people over the past few years. This will be our 5th together. And we just clicked.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Well, and I mean, that's what it's all about. Like I said, it's those transactions where you're working with clients where everybody's on the same page and they all like each other. And I think that that's the one thing that a lot of agents are missing, right? They're a little too transactional.
Exactly. I tell people first and foremost with the new buyer's rep, this does not tie you to me. You do not have to work with me at any time. Like, please don't leave me. Most of the time they don't. But if you don't want to work with me, I'm not going to force you to work with me. I probably don't want to work with you either at that point. Right?
Exactly.
So, but that never really happens, thankfully.
Well, because you're mindful of who you are going to let be your client,
Right.
right?
I will say in 10 years, I've only had one client that I really, to this day, don't care to hear his name.
Well, then I would say you're doing something right.
Everything else has been great.
Well, I would encourage you to make sure that you come back on here because, again, what I typically see with agents is they get on here, we kind of do an initial podcast where we learn a little bit about who you are, and then all of a sudden a couple of days or even weeks go by if you get the opportunity to listen to this whole thing, but you'll see the clips come out, and agents say to me, oh my gosh, I have so many other things I want to cover, whether it's, because now you're going to go through your daily routine, and there's going to be things that you wish that you could just get out to the public about questions, whether it's about taxes or whether it's about what to look for in a new build. I don't know what you know, right? But think of those topics and make sure that you make this something. I tell everyone you should do it at least quarterly, but probably once a month. And we'll get everything edited out and make you look real good. Yeah. Well, and again, it's great for your social media just because, I find that when anybody refers someone to me, for example, the very first thing I do is I do a little bit of research.
Yeah,
right?
you want to know who you're working with.
And it's awesome. I've had this happen to me on the reverse end of things where I've had clients that have contacted me and said, hey, Lauren referred me. And I'll say, oh, that's fantastic. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. They're going, you know what? We actually researched you and there's so much content out there. Like, we're good.
Nice.
Like, we feel like we know who you are. Like, yeah, what do you need from us? And that is an amazing feeling.
That's really where the connection is. If you can connect with somebody just speaking that way.
We can get you there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so much that I want to talk about. And I'd be interested to see the before clips and then see the end of 2025 clips.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And
this was great.
do not be a stranger. Are you, if you have the time, I've been promoting it like crazy. There's a video coming out later today, but we are doing a white elephant gift for this barbecue and mingle. So we're encouraging everyone. This Friday?
Okay. Because I thought we were skipping it a couple weeks.
No, we are. We're skipping it the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's. So this is the last one of the year. I'm going to try to, I am going to do a very large, like 25 to 30 pound brisket. It's going to be amazing.
I'll be here for sure.
I would love that.
All righty.
Thanks again.
I'll be back. Thank you.
Bye-bye.